Ladies and gentlemen, they're saying it's very unlikely that Vladimir Putin will be brought up on war crime charges. What Biden's been running around here saying it should happen to him. Biden got a lot of nerve. Y'all killed over 1 million people over in Iraq, and you're saying Putin should be brought up on war crimes? Wow, America, you really know how to be blind to your own mess, don't you? Okay, charging Putin for potential war crimes is difficult, and any penalty hard to enforce. That's because y'all fudge up the laws so that, you don't get in trouble for anything, including mass murder. So even before the outrage over hundreds of civilians reportedly killed in Bucha, Ukraine was accusing Russia of committing a number of war crimes, and many experts have backed those claims. President Joe Biden on Monday called for Russian President Vladimir Putin to face war crime trial. You need to include yourself in that, Joe Biden. You saw what happened in Bucha, Biden said. He is a war criminal. They killed over 1 million people in Iraq. But Putin's the war criminal. Okay. It will never make sense, so why try to make sense out of it? But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the details so this can be an actual have a war crime trial, he said. But experts warned it would be difficult and a long process to bring Putin to account, and even harder to enforce any actions against him. That's why many say that he will not face any type of war crime trial. Here's a rundown of the legal situation as the international community looks for ways to hold Russia accountable for the killings, widespread destruction, and human rights abuses that have been documented in Ukraine. I don't know, y'all. Have they documented all of the atrocities they commit in America every day? Okay, I'm just asking. Could Putin be held accountable individually? It is unlikely that Putin would face war crime trial at the highest international level. Hmm. I don't think he will either. So this is according to founder and director of International Justice Lab, who is an assistant professor at William and Mary. An array of international judicial institutions have jurisdiction over abuses that Putin's army is accused of carrying out in Ukraine. But those courts differ in how they work and how their rulings are enforced. And few have any leverage over Russia. The UN's highest court was created to resolve interstate disputes, not to rule on cases involving individuals. Any decisions it make are implemented by the UN Security Council, but Russia holds a critical veto on the panel. Ukraine formally, they were asking the court to halt the war on Ukraine early in the conflict, citing the 1948 International Convention banning genocide. But Russia's representatives didn't show up to the hearing. The court granted Ukraine's arrest, but it has no way to enforce it. So they can't make Russia get out of Ukraine and stop all the fighting. The International Criminal Court, days after Russian forces invaded Ukraine, the ICC top prosecutor said there was reasonable basis to believe war crimes and crimes against humanity were being committed in Ukraine, and a formal investigation would begin. In theory, the ICC would be the court that could handle any potential prosecution of Putin. They don't have the best track record because nobody wants to turn over heads of state. This is a criminal court. This is one actually concerned with individuals. But the challenge is you have to actually get the people to the place. So, yeah, how are you going to get Putin there? So, who would be willing to arrest and transfer Putin to The Hague if he was left, even if he left Russia? The International Court was created by the Council of Europe to handle cases against individuals and groups as well as countries. But Russia has shown only spotty compliance with its past rulings, and the chances of future compliance grew even more remote in mid March when Russia was expelled from the Council of Europe altogether. Oh boy. I don't think they can do anything with them, y'all. I know they want to, but it don't look like they can. All right. So the International Criminal Court will consider charges against Russia, but warned that the process would likely take years and years before a final decision emerges. As an example, in March, the ICC issued arrest warrants in a case centering on alleged war crimes in and around the territory of South Georgia, a case that began with examinations in 2008 when the actions occurred. That's right, they had, I think, a civil war in that area. And a lot of people left out of there too, just like Ukraine. So they're saying that universal jurisdiction is the legal concept that a country's domestic court system can take up cases against people who are accused of committing offenses such as war crimes and genocide, even if the alleged crime happened outside of the prosecuting country's territory. The rationale behind this idea is that the authorities and duty to prosecute serious crimes extend beyond international borders because people who commit such acts are deemed as enemies of all mankind. The doctrine was used in Spanish courts to trial Augusto Pinochet over abuses that he committed in Chile. More recently, it was allowed in German court to sentence Syrian intelligence officer to life in prison for murders and torture that took place in Damascus. We see countries like Poland that are already initiating investigations and have already communicated that they are interested in addressing war crimes and other atrocities. Another approach is halting Russia into, so they're saying just bring Russia into court, would be for the US and its allies, such as France, UK, and Germany, to try to create an ad hoc international tribunal outside of the UN, similar to Nuremberg and Tokyo war crime trials. But such an undertaking would pose a number of challenges, including questions of legitimacy. The distinction between war crime, genocide, and against crimes against humanity depends on how widespread and systemic the actions are and the intent behind them. Isn't it amazing how they can bring up everything except for the atrocities that they commit on the Black community every single day in America? You notice that never comes up. Syria comes up, Tokyo comes up, Ukraine comes up. I mean, everything under the sun comes up, but that one thing never comes up. They make sure they keep that completely out. So, what we need to be doing is really focusing on the actions themselves. This is what they told NPR. It is clear the atrocities are being committed. It is clear that there are violations of the laws of war that it should be sufficient for nations, not just the West, not just the United States, but the entire international community to act. It can be complicated to distinguish between the different heinous crimes, which are forbidden in a number of legal documents, such as the Geneva Convention and the Roman Statute of the International Criminal Court. A war crime could involve a willful killing of an individual or abuses such as torture, property destruction, sexual violence, or forced displacement during a conflict. It can be perpetuated by individual soldiers, but it doesn't necessarily reflect their military or country. In, in contrast, crimes against humanity often signifies widespread attacks with international direction. The killings and other actions can be seen as genocide when a group is targeted because of their racial, ethnic, national, and other identifying characteristics with the intent of destroying part of all of that group. Isn't that what they have been doing to us? Hell yeah. Okay. So they're saying it would be highly difficult to get Putin. You know, the chances of them hauling him into court and him facing war crimes like Biden got room to talk. Um, wow. Wow. This is just crazy. But they're saying, they don't think this will happen to Putin at all. Mm-mm-mm. Only if people would just keep their treaties with other people and just not put weapons by somebody else's border. I don't know, y'all. I mean, this whole thing, when you really think about it, could have been avoided, but hey, you're in the midst of it now. There's no turning back. But y'all, please tell me what you think about them talking and chattering about Putin being brought up on war crimes. And America seems to go around the world killing, and they seem to go untouched. Isn't that amazing? Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.